Reporting live today on Fuente News, this is Alessandra Martinez. Today we're going to discuss about environmental issues, politics, and personal technology. So Jessica, what is your report towards environmental issues?
Thank you, Alessandra Martinez. The Gulf of Mexico oil spill is also known as the Deepwater Horizon. On April 20, 2010, an oil well erupted, causing 11 employees that were working there that evening dead. The oil company BP had a drilling rig working on a well, 1 mile beneath the surface of the Gulf of Mexico, as stated in New York Times. This clip from the New York Times, updated on August 2, it demonstrates the abundance of oil being spread into the ocean that was caused by the explosion. At the far right side, there is a bar that rises every day from April 22 to August 2, and it shows the estimated amount of gallons dispersed into the sea. This is nearly 5 times the size of the Exxon Valdez spill, which wreaked an environmental disaster in 1989, as stated in Time magazine on Thursday, August 5th, 2010. And in New York Times, it is considered the worst disaster in American history. Also stated in New York Times, 5,000 to 4,002,000 gallons per day flowed into the ocean. Now it has spilled an estimated amount of 172 million gallons. At the beginning, BP delayed in capping the gusher. After several attempts, they finally stopped the oil from leaking, and it is known as the bottom kill. Even though the oil is disappearing, it doesn't mean the Gulf is out of harm's way, as stated in Time magazine on Wednesday, August 4, 2010.
So Jessica, what is the public perspective towards this disaster?
The public has different views towards this issue. Some of the Democrats have a very opposing position to that of the Republicans. Some Republicans are having trouble bringing themselves to say anything bad about industry that has been so good to them. Stated in the Washington Post, June 18, 2010. This quote signifies that Republicans are reliable to their industry, so if they oppose it, they will lose money towards their stock markets. The House Republican leaders John A. Bonner, Eric Cantor, and Mike Pence referred to the spill as a natural disaster. From the Washington Post, Friday, June 18, 2010. The Democratic leaders don't believe the company BP is at fault, but to President Obama.
But Jessica, what has President Barack Obama done to deal with these environmental issues?
President Barack Obama has banned oil drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, as stated in Mercury News, updated December 1st, 2010. President Obama has visited the site twice. He has directly took the blames out of BP's hands, stating that he was responsible for the disaster of what he agreed to 1 month earlier when the explosion happened. So stated in New York Times, May 27, 2010. Let's move on to these political cartoons from Time magazine. So, this political cartoon is poking fun at the oil spill, and it means that BP is lagging, and the oil leak has not been solved, therefore making sea life endangered. This other photo illustrates the oil leak from BP that finally capped it, but after many failing attempts, it has caused an enormous disaster to clean up. This last photo indicates not only will the oil affect marine life, but to society, people, environment, and our resources.
Jessica, how has the oil spill affected us and the marine animals?
All the oil is causing severe damage to the environment, people, and marine animals. The ones that are being affected the most is the sea turtles, the brown pelicans, the dolphins, whales, and fishermen, as stated in Newsweek's magazine. This chart from the New York Times shows the amount of the common marine animals found near the shore. One of the 4 endangered species of sea turtles is Camp's Riley, that is being affected, as well as the brown pelican and the northern gannet. The sea turtles, whales, and bottlenose dolphin are dying from inhaling the toxic chemicals from the oil. The birds are dying because when they dive into the water to get food, they get contaminated with oil, making it harder for them to fly. This picture shows the areas the dead marine animals are found more often. The chemicals affect the food chain because small marine animals get contaminated and are eaten by bigger ones, like fish, and then goes up, or the fisherman catches it, sells it to the people, and we are affected. The fishermen are not working for a while. Since the government doesn't want to sell contaminated food to the public, there are various ways you can help with this issue. For example, this video, Fort Jackson Rehabilitation Center, shows how the community is helping out with this problem. Some of these animals are being held here, where they're cleaned and cared until they can depend on their own.
We have various people from different organizations, Tri-State Bird Rescue, International Bird Rescue. We also have the Louisiana State Animal Rescue Team folks here. They're given fluids. When they're there, we coat them with something called methyl soyate. It kind of breaks down the oil, especially if it's really thick. Then they go into different vats of Dawn and water and soaped up, sudsed up, and then rinsed. When they're rinsed, after that, they go into a drying area, and then finally from there, either into an indoor pen for a night or outside.
Many volunteers are helping out, whether they're donations or cleaning up the leftover of oil at the edge of the beaches.
Also, so how can we help to solve these environmental issues?
Different ways you could help. 1. Report any injured wildlife and any contaminated beaches. 2. Volunteer. 3. Donate to trusted organization. 4. Write to elected leaders. And the last one, 5. Reduce using oil.
I got troubles though, but not today. 'Cause they're gonna wash away. They're gonna wash away. They're gonna wash away. And so I'm gonna take them away.
The release of the new iPhone 4 has made headlines across the nation. Even some newspaper articles refer it to a revolutionary product. Apple's latest gadget seems like it has broken down walls for the technology world, but it has also brought up new problems. The iPhone 4's new design includes the antenna wrapped around the phone instead of inside it. The design makes it vulnerable to drop calls, but many still continue to be loyal to the Apple industry and purchase a new iPhone 4, knowing of its minor flaw. This loyalty and advancement in technology has made the Puente newscast curious of how technology has revolutionized throughout the decades. The first created phone was by Martin Cooper.
In this chart, you can see the evolution of the laptops. Not just did the laptops change, but also the technology inside it. The 1981 laptop didn't do half of the things that the recent new ones are capable of. In this cartoon, you can see that the technology has taken over the next generation. You can see the little girl calling the teacher, and instead of raising her hand and telling her the answer. That's saying that nowadays students rely too much on the technology. And in this other cartoon, you can also see that children rely on technology. The next generation relies on it. They'd rather ask or research or find it online than to work on it themselves and learn from it. In this chart, you can see that phones have not just changed their appearance, but they also have changed, just like the laptop. You can text now, and teenagers and adults love to text. I'm sure the inventor of the phone. Here you can see that the laptops and the phones, well now the smartphones, are like hand in hand. At first, phones were just used for calling and to text. Now, they're as good as laptops. So by the 2011, are going to buy smartphones as much as they buy PCs. So you can see how technology has advanced there. Here is the evolution of the phones. Now they're nice and prettier and smaller compared to Martin Cooper's first version of the phone. This is the first computer, and this is his inventor. This is the first phone and his inventor. And it was made in 1973. And this is the first laptop that was made in 1981. This is the first phone that was made in 1970.
Elena Kagan. At 50 years old, she succeeded Justice Paul Stevens. On July 5, 2010, Kagan was confirmed on a 63-37 Senate vote, and most Republicans opposed her. Kagan was sworn in on Saturday, July 7, 2010, by Chief Justice John Roberts. 2 days after Kagan was confirmed by the Senate, and a day after President Obama marked her ascension. Justice Kagan joins Justices Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Sonia Sotomayor. She is the sixth justice to have studied at Harvard Law School. Kagan joined the bench for the start of the High Court term in October. At the dawn of the 21st century, women on the court were one or two at a time curiosities, said Justice Ginsburg, stated in the Mercury News on August 7th. Having 3 women on the court may not change the outcome of any cases. Having the seat occupied by a woman doesn't change the way these justice votes, said Tracy George in the Mercury News on August 7, 2010. However, academic studies have found that it might make a difference on sex discrimination lawsuits. On a person claiming sex discrimination, woman is significantly more likely to rule in favor of, concluded Christina Boyd and Lee Epstein and Andrew Martin, stated in the Mercury News on August 7, 2010. The first female justice on the Supreme Court was Sandra Day O'Connor, who stepped down in 2006. The second female justice, who is still currently in the Supreme Court, is Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and currently joining her last year was Justice Sonia Sotomayor, who is now the third female justice. In 2010, Elena Kagan will now be joining Ruth Ginsburg and Sonia Sotomayor.